The grand oak doors of the courthouse creaked open, releasing a stream of nervous chatter from within. Outside, Daniel Hayes paused for a moment before stepping inside. His navy blue suit was simple but well-tailored, his shoes polished to a shine that reflected his calm demeanor. There was no need for him to put on a show today. He wasn't the one trying to prove something. Inside the courtroom, his wife, or rather, soon-to-be ex-wife, Veronica, was already seated. She looked radiant as ever, her blonde hair cascading in soft curls, a diamond necklace glinting at her throat. The designer dress she wore was so new, the price tag could probably still be found in the boutique bag she'd tossed aside. Earlier that morning, Veronica wasn't dressed for court. She was dressed for triumph. Her lawyer leaned in close, whispering strategy, but Veronica's eyes weren't on the paperwork. They were fixed on Daniel, who had just taken his seat across the aisle. She smirked, her lips curling in amusement, and whispered loud enough for him to hear, "Look at him. Same cheap suit, same quiet face. He'll walk out of here with nothing, and I'll walk out free." Her words stung, but Daniel remained silent. He folded his hands neatly on the table in front of him, his expression unreadable. He had grown used to her cruelty over the years. At first, Veronica's sharp tongue had been playful, teasing. But as the years passed, her remarks had sharpened into blades. She mocked his long hours in the workshop, his modest spending habits, and above all, his apparent lack of ambition. What she never realized was that Daniel's so-called dull ambition had been laying the foundation for something far greater than she could imagine. The judge entered, and the room rose to its feet. The atmosphere shifted instantly from casual whispers to tense silence. The trial was not expected to last long. Veronica had made it clear she wanted a quick divorce, complete with half of Daniel's assets and a generous monthly alimony. She had already moved into a luxury apartment downtown, her new life prepared and waiting. Her lawyer stood first, clearing his throat. "Your Honor, my client. Mrs. Veronica Hayes has endured a long and unfulfilling marriage. Mr. Hayes failed to provide her with the lifestyle she deserved. She has sacrificed her youth and her happiness, and therefore she requests an equitable division of assets as well as continued financial support." The word sacrificed hung heavy in the air. Daniel's lips twitched into the faintest hint of a smile. Veronica's sacrifices had included weekly spa trips, monthly shopping sprees, and lavish vacations, funded by Daniel's careful but consistent work. He hadn't complained. He had let her believe he was simply a modest engineer with little to his name. And in a way that had been true once. "Half is only fair," Veronica chimed in, her voice carrying across the courtroom. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs with theatrical flair. "He never amounted to much anyway. I supported him emotionally for years while he tinkered with useless projects. The least he can do now is pay me back." A ripple of laughter spread through the spectators, though quickly hushed under the judge's stern gaze. "Mr. Hayes," the judge said, turning to Daniel, "do you have anything to say before I render judgment?" Daniel stood slowly, straightening his suit jacket. His movements were calm, measured. "No objections, Your Honor. I only request that the court read my financial disclosure out loud before making a final decision." The request seemed odd, but the judge nodded. Papers shuffled as the clerk handed over the thick folder of documents Daniel had submitted. The judge cleared his throat, glancing briefly at Daniel before beginning to read. "According to the financial disclosure," the judge said, his voice echoing in the silent room, "Mr. Hayes has a personal net worth of $58 million. The number struck the room like a thunderclap. Gasps erupted from the spectators. Even the court reporter looked up from her stenograph machine. Veronica's smirk faltered, her face twisting in confusion. She leaned forward, her voice trembling. 58 million? That can't be right." The judge adjusted his glasses, continuing, "Most of this wealth comes from Mr. Hayes's early patents in renewable energy technology, several of which have been licensed internationally. Additionally, Mr. Hayes made successful investments in multiple green energy startups over the past decade. All records have been independently verified and confirmed." Veronica's hand shot out, clutching her lawyer's arm. "That's impossible. He never told me. He never had money." Daniel's voice was calm, almost cold. "I told you once, Veronica, that patience and persistence pay off. You laughed at me then too." Her eyes darted wildly between the judge, her lawyer, and Daniel. The smugness that had carried her into the courtroom vanished, replaced by raw panic. She had walked in certain she would claim half of a modest life. Instead, she was walking out with the realization that she had been sitting on a fortune and had thrown it away with her own arrogance. The judge flipped to the final page of the prenuptial agreement, his tone firm. "Per the terms of the contract signed 12 years ago, Mrs. Hayes is entitled to a one-time settlement of $200,000. Nothing more." The sound that escaped Veronica's throat was half gasp, half scream. 200,000? That's all? Her lawyer tried to calm her, but she shoved his hand away. "No, I want half. I deserve half. He lied to me. He hid this." The judge's gavel struck once, silencing her protest. "This court finds the prenuptial agreement valid and enforceable. The divorce is finalized, case closed." Daniel turned, buttoning his jacket as he prepared to leave. For the first time that day, he met Veronica's eyes directly. His gaze was steady, his words soft but cutting. "You wanted freedom, Veronica. You laughed when you signed away our marriage. Now you have both." He walked out, his footsteps echoing through the chamber, while Veronica crumpled into her chair, her laughter long forgotten. In that moment, the courtroom wasn't just a place of judgment, it was the stage where Veronica discovered the price of her greed. And it was far more than she could ever afford. The courthouse doors swung shut behind Daniel, leaving the echoes of Veronica's broken protests behind him. Reporters surged forward like a tide, their cameras flashing, microphones shoved into his path. "Mr. Hayes, is it true you're worth nearly $60 million? Why keep it a secret from your wife? Do you have plans for the future now that you're divorced?" Daniel raised a hand, his expression calm. No comment. He slid into the back seat of his car and shut the door, silencing the chaos outside. For years, he had lived quietly, valuing his work and privacy over public attention. Today, that peace was fragile, but he knew it wouldn't last forever. As his driver pulled away, Daniel leaned back and exhaled. It wasn't the money that mattered, it was the weight lifted from his shoulders. For the first time in 12 years, he was free. Meanwhile, across town, Veronica sat in her luxury car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She could still hear the judge's words, $200,000. To her, it sounded like pennies. A decade of marriage gone, and she was left with a sum that wouldn't even cover a single year of her shopping habits. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. It was Travis, her handsome, much younger boyfriend, who had promised her a life of excitement once she was free of Daniel. She snatched it up, her voice sharp. "Great, babe," he said lazily. "So when do we book Paris? You got the money, right?" Her stomach tightened. "Not exactly. The judge... He only gave me 200,000. There was a long pause, then Travis laughed. Not the warm laugh she had once adored, but a cruel, mocking sound. 200,000? That's it? Veronica, that's pocket change. That won't even keep you in handbags." "No," Travis cut her off sharply. "You told me he was broke. You lied, didn't you? He's a millionaire and you walked away from him? Well, then maybe you should have stayed. Look, call me when you've got something real. I'm not interested in being broke." The line went dead. Veronica stared at the phone in disbelief, her hand trembling. In less than an hour, she had lost her husband, her wealth, and now even her new lover. For days afterward, she replayed the courtroom scene in her mind, each detail tormenting her. Small apartment to another, haunted by memories of what she had thrown away. One evening, scrolling through social media, she saw a photo of Daniel and Claire at a community event. They weren't dressed in designer clothes. They weren't posing in front of mansions. But the smiles on their faces radiated happiness, genuine, unshakable happiness. Veronica slammed the phone down, her chest tightening with rage and regret. The life she had mocked, the man she had belittled, those were the very things she now craved, and they were gone forever.